Markets are closed, but the business stories are just heating up. Hello, I'm Mai Rodriguez. Catch up with us on Business Brief. Asian shares mostly rise as markets closely watch the looming deadline set by U.S. President Donald Trump to impose higher tariffs on Chinese imports. The U.S. and China agreed to a 90-day pause in their trade war back in May to allow for negotiations. That truce expires this Tuesday. After last month's talks in Stockholm ended without a clear decision from Trump, uncertainty remains over whether the tariff pause will be extended. South Korea's Kospi and Singapore's Straits Times are currently in the red, while the rest are in the green, with Japan's Nikkei rising the most at nearly 2%. In the currency markets, the US dollar depreciates against the Japanese yen, the Singapore dollar, and the Thai baht. It is flat against the Hong Kong dollar and South Korean won. The Australian dollar is also flat against the greenback. In commodities, gold prices are down by more than 1%, while oil prices are mixed. In the cryptocurrency space, Bitcoin rises by almost 3%, while Ethereum adds over 2%. President Bongbong Marcos bears the initial findings of their probe into the country's flood control projects. During a news briefing this morning, Marcos said nearly 10,000 flood control projects were supposedly conducted between July 2002 and May 2025. The total cost of these projects are more than 545 billion pesos. Around 6,000 of these projects are worth 350 billion pesos. But there were no details on the exact type of flood control structures built or rehabilitated. Marcos was suspicious of several projects having the same contract cost, despite differences in location or terrain.
Many projects also in different locations have exactly the same contract cost. I think anybody who works in either the private sector or the public sector, pag sinabi, may 50 project, pare-pareho, 150 million lahat. Pare-pareho lahat. Imposible yan. It is impossible for one barangay, even if they are the next barangay, to have the exact same project to the exact same amount with the exact same contractor. Imposible yan. And that is why that is a significant finding already.
The province of Bulacan has the most number of projects at more than 600, followed by Cebu, Isabela, and Pangasinan. Camarines Sur is at number 9, while Ilocos Norte got the number 10th spot with more than 200 flood control projects. The president also branded as a disturbing assessment the fact that 100 billion, or about 20% of the entire 545 billion budget for flood mitigation projects, was awarded to only 15 contractors. Marcos also noticed that 5 of these contractors had projects in almost the entire country, and projects of these companies should be looked into. The president said he will look into ultra-Bilyonaryo Ramon Ang's proposal to solve Metro Manila's flood problems. In a news briefing this morning, the president acknowledged RSA's previous efforts to solve the flooding problem, citing his dredging operations of various rivers.
I always said the private sector needs to be part of everything of our national development. Hindi pwedeng ganon. Now, yung proposal ni Ramon Ang is also certainly very welcome because we've seen his projects. Maganda naman ang mga nagiging resulta. He's able to bring it in on time, and the man is an engineer, so I'm sure he has pinag-aralan niya na mabuti yan. He's actually given me already this briefing before. And however, there is still another side to his proposal. And the other side of his proposal, I will fix the flooding problem. I will desil the areas here in Metro Manila anyway. But the mayors, the LGUs have to take care of the garbage problem.
If the proposal pushes through, Senator Panfilo Lacson wants budget cuts in flood management programs of the Public Works and Highways Department and the MMDA. Still on the president, he led the inspection of the Pasig Marikina River Channel Improvement Project. This is a partnership between the DPWH and the Japan International Cooperation Agency to reduce flooding caused by the overflow of the Pasig and Marikina rivers. The project includes the construction of dikes, floodgates, and dredging channels. The Foreign Buyers Association of the Philippines warns the country could lose business if the U.S. pushes through with a 100% tariff on semiconductor imports on top of 19% tariffs on select Philippine exports. Speaking to BNC's Business 360, Association President Robert Young said even a small tariff hike hurts, and a duty of this magnitude would be tragic for the sector.
It will be very, very tragic for sure, because we might be losing the business already if that will be the case. This will be a hard climb for the semiconductor sector, and really we will not be any more competitive, I think, in the world market in case this will be done on this 100% increase. So the government somehow should really act swiftly. The high degree of urgency is there already.
Young believes industry can hold out until year-end since buyers are willing to shoulder half of the tariffs. But he warns 2026 will be a critical tipping point if costs remain high. The Philippines needs a plan, not false hope. That's according to Senator Imee Marcos, who warns about the U.S.'s 100% tariff threat to the semiconductor industry. She says the impact on exports cannot be underestimated. She calls for targeted U.S. exemptions, contingency contracts, and quick diversification of markets. The presidential sister also proposes U.S.-linked production lanes, moving up the value chain and co-investing in U.S.-supported capabilities. A record 1 trillion peso profit and questions over how it was made is putting property developer Villar Land Holdings under regulatory scrutiny by the Securities and Exchange Commission. The company, part of the Villar family's business empire, led by Bilyonaryo and former Senate President Manny Villar, is best known for large-scale real estate developments nationwide. The SEC is reviewing the figure, mostly from property valuation gains, to check for any irregularities. The property developer, formerly Golden MV Holdings, reported net income surging from 1.46 billion pesos to nearly 1 trillion, driven by reappraisals of prime land in its 3,500-hectare Villar City project. Trading of its shares has been suspended since May for failure to file its 2024 annual report. Villar Land says its books are undergoing a rigorous external audit and vows full cooperation with regulators. We're taking a short break. More business stories are up next. You're watching Business Brief. Top economic officials are cautiously optimistic about the second half of the year, highlighting deficit reduction, trade challenges, economic diversification, and online gambling regulation. Here's Sujin Kim with the details. Go ahead, Sujin.
The country's top economic managers are projecting a strong second-half performance for the Marcos administration despite soft investments and global uncertainties, banking on fiscal and monetary policy support, trade negotiations, and digitalization reforms. Finance Secretary Ralph Recto said the government will keep deficit reduction on track. Deficit is expected to drop from 8.6% during the pandemic to 4% by 2028 and 3% by 2030, aiming for economic growth to outpace debt. Recto also pushed digitalization in customs and revenue collection to plug leakages from illicit trade, targeting full national single window implementation by 2027. As of today, Recto revealed the bill on a general tax amnesty has already been prepared, while its impact is still being studied. Special Assistant to the President, Frederick Go, addressed the uncertainty of U.S. trade policy landscape, including the 19% tariff deal and a possible 100% tariff on semiconductors. He confirmed that no final agreement has been signed and that the Philippines is actively lobbying for exemptions on assembly, testing, and packaging operations, which U.S. firms may prefer to keep offshore. Meanwhile, DepDev Secretary Arsenio Balisaca noted that public investment contracted. He stressed the need to diversify the economy toward export and private investment. In the meantime, BSP Governor Eli Remolona Jr. said the central bank remains ready to cut interest rates, possibly more than once this year if data supports it, but will balance growth needs with inflation risks. He highlighted the banking system's robustness, with capital adequacy ratios well above international standards and foreign reserves covering over 6 months of imports. On regulation, Recto, Go, and Balisacan all supported stricter controls on online gambling, including tighter KYC or Know Your Customer rules, banning government employees and aid or ayuda recipients, and raising minimum bets and entry fees, instead of an outright ban to protect revenues and minimize social harm. And those are our latest updates from Pasay City. Back to you, Mai.
Thank you for that report, Sujin Kim. PLDT and Smart have blocked access to 10 unregistered crypto exchanges. The Securities and Exchange Commission flagged the platforms for operating without licenses. Cryptocurrency is a digital currency used online and traded through exchanges similar to stock markets. Robbie Alampay, PLDT and Smart's group head of public engagement, said the companies acted on the order of the National Telecommunications Commission to protect users. He adds the identified sites are no longer accessible on their network. The Department of Information and Communications Technology, or DICT, warns the public about a scam circulating on Facebook. The post falsely claims to be from the Social Welfare Department and contains malicious links aimed at stealing personal information or compromising devices. The DICT has coordinated with the concerned platform to have the fraudulent content removed. Gasoline and diesel prices are heading lower this week, a price cut that's good news for pretty much everyone, from daily commuters to big businesses moving goods. Gasoline could drop by 40 centavos a liter and diesel by 1 peso and 30 as the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries pumps more oil and hopes rise for a diplomatic end to the war in Ukraine. We're taking a short break. A look at how Philippine stocks did today coming up next. You're watching Business Brief. And you're back on Business Brief. U.S. President Donald Trump will meet with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Anchorage, Alaska on Friday. They will negotiate an end to the war in Ukraine. In a social media post, Trump said Russia and Ukraine are close to a ceasefire deal, and it could involve the swapping of territories. Since his return to the White House, Trump has tried to improve relations with Moscow to end the war. Israel's military says it has killed Al Jazeera journalist Anas al-Sharif, claiming he was a leader of a Hamas cell. Al Jazeera reports 3 more of its staff covering the conflict in Gaza were also killed. An official at Shifa Hospital says 7 people died in total. UN Special Rapporteur Irene Khan has previously said Israel's allegations against al-Sharif were unsubstantiated. Palestinian journalist groups are condemning the killings. The Mexican government is stepping in to mediate a dispute between indigenous artisans from Oaxaca Adidas in a case that could reshape how global brands use traditional designs. The controversy centers on the Oaxaca slip-on shoe inspired by traditional Zapotec Huarache sandals. Artisans say Adidas used the design without permission, undermining both their cultural heritage and economic livelihood. Mexico's president confirms the sportswear giant has opened talks with the Oaxaca state government.
Estamos viendo la parte jurídica para poder apoyar a los pueblos.
We are reviewing the legal aspects to support the communities. Often large companies take products, ideas, designs from indigenous communities in our country. In fact, we are working on a law to ensure, besides what already exists. In some ways, they are usurping the creativity of an indigenous community.
Un diseñador yo creo que debe de tener sus...
A designer, I think, should have their own designs to work with and not plagiarize something that has been our livelihood and source of income and work for most of the community.
Philippine shares and the first trading day of the week in the red. The PSE index ended lower by more than 1% to close at 62.54, finishing the day as the worst performer in Asia. Among the sectoral indices, only services ended in the green, with financials rising the most at over 2%. Decliners outpaced advancers 141 to 70. Total value turnover reached 7.1 billion pesos. Majority of the day's most active stocks ended in the red, with RL Commercial falling the most at more than 3%. Meanwhile, the foreign exchange market, the peso, is currently trading at 56.98 against the greenback, appreciating from the previous close of 57.11. That's a wrap for today's Business Brief. I'm Mai Rodriguez. Join us again tomorrow as we bring you the stories that help you plan your next big, bold moves in business, only here on the Bilyonaryo News Channel. I'll see you then.